in just a second. Anyways, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm thrilled to see we have some visitors tonight, especially because this week and next Friday are usually not our most attended Friday night services, as in the coming days we will have about 700, 800 people in these rooms for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And so I think people kind of get their fill. And so I was wondering, will there be any of my friends tonight? And I see a few friends and some new friends too. So thank you for joining us. We're thrilled to have you here. We are going to turn in our Siddur, Mishkan Tefillah, to page 142 as we welcome Shabbat in with peace, with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hashanim, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malchei Amlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Koachem Shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malchei Amlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malchei Amlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Sekem l'shalom, Malachi Hashalom, Malachi Elyon, Melech Malchei Amlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Page 138.
Lecha dodi likratala, pene Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likratala, pene Shabbat nekavela. Shamur v'zachor b'dibur echad yishmi'anu, el amiuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litita. Lecha dodi likratala, pene Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likratala, pene Shabbat nekavela. Likrat Shabbat nechuvenecha, ivekor habebracha merosh mikeret lesucha, sof ma'aseh v'machashat tila. Lecha dodi likratala, pene Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likratala, pene Shabbat nekavela. Itoreri, itoreri, kira orech, kumi ori, uri, shir dabei, yevod Adonai alaycha. Lecha dodi likratala, pene Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likratala, pene Shabbat nekavela.
We rise and face the entrance to greet Shabbat.
David Shalom, Ateret Bara, Gam Besimcha, Uvitzora, Toch Emuneh, Am Segula. Barichala, lecha dodi likratala, pene Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likratala, pene Shabbat nekavela.
May be seated. And now that we have greeted Shabbat with the singing of L'Chadovi, what we learn with that song is that attending Shabbat is almost like attending a wedding. That when you see the sun go down, And God and Shabbat come together. We're witnessing a holy matrimony. And since we have welcomed in Shabbat, now we're going to welcome in Shabbat more formally with the lighting of our Shabbat candles, welcoming in the light that Shabbat brings into our world.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק של Shabbat.
Amen. Turn now to page 144 for the Hatzi Kaddish.
יתקדש ויתקדש שמי רבה ויעמד יברך ילודי וימליך מלכותי וחייכון וביומכון ובחייתך בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה נתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתעטר ויתעלה ויתעלל שמי דקודשה לעילה מנך ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו
Amen. We rise for the Baruch Hu, page 146. Turn to page 149, and we read about how we are cognizant, by the way, this Shabbat is the last Shabbat of our year. Next week, we are in the year 5783, and New Year's always bring change and always bring something new. And so, as we turn to page 149, I wanted us to do this reading. You're welcome to join in. This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over?
Baruch atah Adonai Hamari Haravi
150.
Ahavat olam beit Yisrael Amecha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Odam limadetam Al kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shocheinu u'v'kumeinu נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, בהם נגד יומם הלילה. יעבדך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
152.
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
One of the things I love about Judaism is that I think that Judaism is fairly emphatically clear that we have free will, that we have a gift of free will. We have all these commandments in the Torah, and if we didn't have those commandments, then, well, if we didn't have free will, then why would we have commandments? We wouldn't really have control over if we followed them or if we didn't. But something that I really appreciate is that it's not just like we have these rules and we have to obey them because we have this contract with God, but rather it's because that the Torah makes emphatically clear as well that we have a relationship with God, that we have more than a contract. There's nothing in the Torah about contracts. Rather, there's a lot about covenants, and that covenants are something where we put our faith and trust in one another. And I think that the moment that as a people collectively, beyond just an individual like Abraham, but as the entire people, we realized that we had this covenant, this relationship, this love where we would be there to support one another. Us through following commandments, and God by being there for us and loving us, was the moment that we were freed from Egypt. The moment that we were given our freedom from slavery and from bondage. And in that moment of receiving that love and being seen as holy in a way that we never had before, our people cried out and said, "Who is like you, God?" Knowing that there's nobody like God. And it was this great moment of celebration. And so as we enter a new year this Sunday evening, our prayer is, It's that people everywhere in the world will get to know that love from God as well and be able to enter a covenant just like we have and be able to celebrate freedom from whatever is oppressing them or holding them back come our new year next year. We are on page 158 of Michamota.
Livne Moshe Miriam Adonai כיפד אדוני את יעקב וגאלם יד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 160, we ask God to watch over us as we go to sleep so that we can rise up tomorrow in peace into a better world.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, יעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Keep us from all harmful things, Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Hashkivinu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'hamideinu shomreinu לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו, הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Turn to page 162 for Shamru. We read that as long as the Jewish people have kept Shabbat, it's really been Shabbat that has kept the Jewish people.
וישמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השני שבת
We turn to page 164 and rise for the Amidah.
Adonai seftai tiptach ufi yagid tehillatcha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Ya la 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 la, ya 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 la la la, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham v'Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים וטובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכול אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
This time you can continue reading silently on your own on page 172, and you can read through page 180. Or you can use this as a time for your own private prayers and meditations of your heart. And when you're finished, you may be seated.
Psalm for the season of repentance and reflection. One thing I ask of Adonai, this is all I seek, to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life, to behold God's peacefulness, and to pray in God's sanctuary. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh. Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai, ota avakesh. Shiviti bivet Adonai, kol yimei chayai, lachazot b'noam Adonai, ulevaker b'chayai, lachazot b'noam Adonai, ulevaker
We're going to turn now to our prayers for healing. As we enter the new year, we know that some people are not entering the year feeling complete and whole, and that they're currently in need of healing of the mind, body, spirit, and some of them are in a period of recovery as well. And so, we hope that this new year will bring them that healing, and also for healing to those who love them too. We're on page 371.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
This week, we think of these members of our community and their loved ones who could use a prayer for healing. Gitalea bat Mashahana, Chaim Yosef ben Shana Libby, David ben Saralea, Saul Hauragi, Micha Yered ben Elchanan Yitzhak Elisa Elka, Harav Yehuda Le ben Dina, Elchanan Yitzhak ben Shamshin Pinchas, Beblima Rachel, Elaine Abramowitz, Thomas Dixon, David Dowsett, Yitzhak Pagilski, Will Goldman, Cheyenne Light, Megan Miggleby, Marco Antonio Moreno Campoy Sr., Janet S. Morley, Shari Pedersen, Art Sandak, Kenny Spector, Marshall Saunders, Richard Weinsoff, and Judy Wolf. If you have a name to add when I look in your direction, you can share it with our community.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Well, this is a big time of year for two reasons for me. One, is because all the Jewish holidays are going to fall in the next 3 weeks, and we will be opening up the walls of the curtains you see behind you, and this place will be packed with people. That's always very nerve-wracking and exciting for me. It's also a big time of year for me because I'm a die-hard baseball fan, and this is when playoffs are about to be, and it looks like I don't want to jinx it, but for the first time in 21 years, my team might make it to the playoffs. Might. But any other baseball fans? No? Okay. Used to be. Okay. There's been two players that I've really been following towards as the season wraps up. One is Aaron Judge. I don't know if anybody's been following that story, but Aaron Judge has 60 home runs, and he is trying to set an American League record by getting to 62, so I've been monitoring his at-bats. And the other player I've been watching is a guy named Albert Pujols. Have you ever heard of Albert Pujols? No, people haven't heard of Albert Pujols. Let me educate you really quickly on Albert Pujols. This is his last season. He's about to retire, and he is standing at 698 career home runs, and he has about 15 games left in his career. And he is one of the greatest baseball players of all time. And there's only been 3 players in the history of baseball that have hit at least 700 home runs. Maybe you've heard these names. Barry Bonds, you heard that name? I haven't seen more nods. Hank Aaron, okay, seeing some more nods. And Babe Ruth, you've heard Babe Ruth. Please tell me you've heard Babe Ruth. Okay, you've heard Babe Ruth. Those are the 3 people that have hit at least 700 home runs. And he's 2 away, and people are wondering if he's going to do it. Well, I've been watching this guy, Albert Pujols, since the beginning of his career. Because for the first decade of this guy's career, he was the most dominant player in the history of baseball. He led his team to 3 league championships, 2 world championships. He won 3 most valuable player awards, and he was runner-up 4 times for that award. And in 9 out of his first 10 seasons, he was in the top 5 for most valuable player. And his first 11 seasons, all with the St. Louis Cardinals, he made the All-Star team 9 times. And he put up numbers that were really comparable to Babe Ruth. It was out of this world what he was doing, especially because he was not supposed to be that good. He was drafted in the 13th round of the Major League Baseball draft, which means that about 500 people got picked before him. And so his first year, a few years as a player, he had the worst contract of any player in baseball. Because here he was the best player in baseball, and he was making the league minimum wage. Now, don't feel too badly for him. League minimum wage at the time was $500,000 a year. He was doing okay. And then as he improved, he was able to make around $1 million a year. Which, again, a lot of money. I would love $1 million a year. But for a professional baseball player, especially the best baseball player, was not considered that much money. So this first decade of his career did things nobody else had ever done. Then he goes to the second decade of his career. He leaves St. Louis to go to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim for $23 million a year with a $1 million a year average salary raise. That's pretty good money. Quarter billion dollars over 10-year period. I would sign that contract, absolutely. However, he went from being the best baseball player that ever lived to his decade in Los Angeles really defining mediocrity. He never finished in the top 10 for MVP voting, never made a single World Series, and he only in those 10 seasons with Los Angeles, he made it to 1 All-Star team. And here he was getting paid $25 million a year on average. And it got to the point that last season, when he was 41 years old, he was making a salary of $30 million. And he was the worst player on his team. And 24 games into the season, the Angels cut him from their roster. They said, we'd rather pay you not to play for us than to have you play for us. Now, he got picked up by the Dodgers and became a backup player and did all right with them. And now in the final year of his career, he re-signed with the St. Louis Cardinals to finish his career where he started. Now, what Pujols had, in case you're wondering why is this rabbi up here talking baseball, there's a point to it. He had represented a contract. Basically, he agreed to play for a team. They agreed to pay him. And there's good in contracts. Don't get me wrong. I have a contract. I love having a contract for a lot of reasons. I am on the second year of a 5-year contract as the rabbi of this synagogue. And what that means is that basically for the next 4 years, I have a guaranteed job and a guaranteed salary. That's good. That's good for me to have that type of financial and job security. And also, though, it benefits our synagogue because it gives our congregants some peace of mind knowing that they have a rabbi for the next 4 years. But also, with contracts, by the way, I love contracts too so much that when I was deciding whether to come to Kolami, I was being offered a position at another synagogue. They really wanted me to be their rabbi. They said basically, whatever those Utah folks are paying you, we'll pay you more. And one of the big things about our congregation is what they told me is, we don't have contracts. It's a great thing. I looked at them and I said, why is that a great thing? And they said, well, because that way you can renegotiate your salary every single year. It's a good thing to be able to do. And in a way, they highlighted the good thing, the bad thing of a contract. Like, let's hypothetically say the synagogue gets a $1 billion donation tomorrow. Wow! I'm not going to get a penny raise because I've already agreed what my salary will be. So they said, this is the reason you want to sign with us without a contract. And I turned it down because I said the security for my family is more important than more money. And trust me, when everything went into lockdown with COVID, boy, was I glad with my decision. Contracts can cause frustration. We saw that, again, in Albert Pujols, for both sides. He was frustrated at the beginning of his career when he was the best player in all of baseball, and guys that were mediocre were making $10 million a year, and here he was making $600,000 a year. And on the flip side, his team sure was frustrated when he was the highest paid player in baseball and the worst player on their team. So we can see that there's frustrations in good and bad that come with contracts. Well, what's better than a contract? What's better than a contract is a covenant. What's a covenant? Covenants are agreements that are made with mutual understanding and respect. That's different than a contract. Again, what this baseball player had was, we pay you, you play baseball. A covenant is about trusting in one another. Covenants don't necessarily have an expiration date. They don't necessarily have monetary compensation. And they don't come through negotiations with a lawyer. Whenever I'm up for contract renewal, I have to go to my lawyer, and my lawyer has to review the document. My lawyer says, no, that's not right. Get that in the synagogue's lawyer and my lawyer talk to each other until they figure out something that's a compromise. That's not how a covenant comes to be. A covenant comes not through lawyers, but through conversations. And ultimately, the difference between a contract and a covenant is that with a contract, you're putting your faith in a document. It says here, you'll pay me this much. It says here, I get medical benefits. The contract says so. You're putting your faith in a piece of paper. But with a covenant, you're putting your faith in the other person. That's what makes a covenant so holy. And that's what we have with God. And throughout the Torah, we see various signs of covenants, from a rainbow with the covenant with Noah. And every time we see a rainbow, we're reminded that God has promised never to destroy the world again. And also with Brit Milah, the ritual of circumcision in our tradition, which is a sign of the covenant between Abraham and God, where Abraham is essentially saying, me and my descendants will be devoted to you and have faith in you and love in you. And God is saying in return, and I will provide blessings for your descendants, and I will make them great. And speaking of Brit Milah, the ritual of circumcision, what we have in our Torah portion this week, Tzavim, is a description of Brit Milah, but not of circumcision as we usually mean it. Rather, it talks about the circumcision of the heart. And what that means, people are like, well, what does that mean? And when we do a circumcision for an 8-day-old boy, in our tradition, that is an outward sign that this child is entering this covenant with God. But with what's called a Brit Milah of the heart, a circumcision of the heart, this is saying that this covenant can't just be external. It has to be internal as well. It has to be something that's in our hearts. And so Moses, in this week's Torah portion, is on his very last days. He's dying, and he implores the people to maintain the covenant and the commandments of God. And with the exception, he's telling all of them this, and with hundreds of thousands of people there, only 2 of them, Joshua and Caleb, had experienced the Exodus from Egypt. But what Moses is doing is he's talking to every man, every woman, every child. And he says, if we do this, so long as we hold up our end of the covenant, which is putting our faith in God, God will always bless us, and we'll prosper and succeed. Essentially, Moses is emphasizing with his dying words, make sure that when you have your relationship with God and with each other, you have mutual love, mutual respect, and mutual commitment. There's no talk in here about, oh, if you sacrifice 200 sheep annually, God will give you 14 inches of rainfall, or anything transactional like that that would make this a contract. Rather, it's about giving love and receiving love in return. We need to create more covenants in our society. Something we do in our classrooms is create a classroom brit, a classroom covenant. And so if a kid violates one of the classroom covenant rules, we don't expel that child from our religious school, but we remind them that they're not living up to that agreement of mutual respect. And in our tradition, we have what's called a ketubah. A ketubah is a marriage license. And traditionally, a ketubah is very contractual. It is saying that the man is bringing in this many 200 zuzim of silver to give to the bride, and he will, sell the shirt off his back if he needs to provide for her, etc., etc. But in 90% of the weddings that I officiate, the couple does not have a traditional ketubah. Rather, they have what's called an egalitarian ketubah. And as much as I love Jewish traditions, I like the egalitarian ketubah so much more than the traditional ketubah, because the traditional ketubah is a contract, the egalitarian ketubah is a covenant, and it reads off and it's on their wall for everyone to see when they come to this married couple's house, that we promise to have a home full of laughter and love and mutual respect and affection, where our Jewish values and our importance in charity are paramount to the way that we see the world, and that we promise to be each other's cheerleaders in moments of success and console each other in times of difficulty, that the world has never known a love like the unique one that the two of us have together, and that through each other we see the world anew. All of this is valid and binding. That's a covenant. That's what we should aim for. And so, I hope that this is something that we can implement, that we can take from the Torah and apply to our lives as well. This is something we can do with our children. This is something we can do in our places of work. This is something we can do with our board of trustees of a nonprofit organization. We can create things where, in addition to the synagogue, hypothetically, and I'll take myself, say, here's what you will do for us, and in return, here, we will pay you this, and me saying, well, I expect this in exchange for this work. For us to create a document alongside that doesn't need a lawyer's review, that says, this is the type of love and affection you can expect from me as your rabbi. And here's the type of love and affection that we'll give to our rabbi as a community. Think about a setting for you that you might be in where a covenant would work. I think we can create that in any place that we work, in any relationship that we have. And when we do so, what we're doing is letting the other know that we plan to treat them with respect, with love, with honor, and to see holiness in them. And that's ultimately what we want in return too. Shabbat Shalom. A few announcements before we move into the concluding part of our service. We have a lot coming up at the synagogue. So Rosh Hashanah is going to begin this Sunday evening. Oh my goodness. So I hope that we see you here, and thank you for everybody who's, I know that a lot of folks are watching online tonight. Thank you for joining us. We hope we see you in person on Sunday, but we also will be live streaming, as we know that some folks aren't ready to come back in person. Please remember to bring your name badges, and they are your tickets to enter the building for security purposes. Also, our High Holiday Food Drive is going on now through October 23rd. There are bins located in the west and south foyers. During Yom Kippur, we of course fast, and we think about the hunger we feel that day. But there are people who experience hunger every day, so let's see what we can do to help those folks out. The last day for Lulav and Etrog orders is this Wednesday, September 28th. The last day for folio of memory submissions for Yizkor services is Thursday, September 29th. Our next Kolami outdoors hike is going to be on Sunday, October 2nd at 3 p.m. at Gloria Falls. Please RSVP to join us. It'll be a lot of fun. A few more things we have coming up. the Joint Colony Utah Food Bank Mobile Food Pantry is starting up again and has a new name, the Frida Schweitzer Mobile Food Pantry in memory of Frida Schweitzer. And we are in need of volunteers for Tuesdays and Wednesdays each month. Dates and more information can be found on our website. Please feel free to contact Bonnie or Peach to volunteer. If you don't have her email, you can always email me and I'll put you in touch with her. So we have a ton, I won't go into all of it, we have a ton of high holiday programming that's coming up over the next month for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and Simchat Torah, including Tashlich, 3 p.m. At my meeting at my house on Monday. But also I want to mention that starting in October on Fridays, we're going to have something special happening every single Friday night. One Friday evening a month there will be cocktails before services, followed by a conservative traditional service. One Friday night a month we're going to have a dinner afterwards. That will be wonderful, and also a band that evening. And one Friday night a month as well, we'll have dinner before services that's geared more towards families. So we hope we see you at that, and we're going to be offering a lot of things to hopefully bring you here. We're always thrilled to have you. So with that, Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova. We are going to move into the concluding part of our ceremony, of our service, rather, We are on page 586 for the Aleinu on the bottom of the page. I'll invite you to please rise.
עלינו לשבח אדון הכל, לתת גדולה, יוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, יגור עלינו ככל העמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לבני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני כמלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. At this time, we think of those whom death has recently taken from us, and those who died in this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. This week, in the period Shloshim, 30-day period of mourning, we remember Sharon Katz, mother of Ian Woodbury, and Inge Bates, mother of Sonia Bates. And if you hear the name of a loved one, you're welcome to rise upon hearing that name. This week we commemorate the following Yortzeitz's anniversary of the passing of these loved ones: Robert Anson, Shirley Appleman, Beatrice Arkey, Ben Arnovitz, Rebecca Behrens, Lynn Bernstein, Annie Callett, Pearl Dorothy Clinton, Corinne Cohen, Helen Dinwoody, Lillian M. Finke, Arthur Frank, Marvin Gallinson, Elliot Goldstein, Robert Gordon, Samuel Green, Leonard Grossman, Marilyn Kantrowitz, George Lemaire, Joey Levy, Sharon Mann Moranis, Pearl Holman, Bernard Barney Rosenblum, Richard Rubin, Sylvia Siegel, Joe Scheffner, Cecilia Coney Siegel, Bobby Silverman, Saul Stark, Faye Sonnenreich Trubeau, Raymond Wilson, and Richard Zabrowski. And if you have a name to add, when I look in your direction, you're welcome to share with our community. Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. If you're in mourning or it's your tradition to do so, you're welcome to rise. We're on page 598. Yikadal, Yikadash, Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Yalma, Divrach Yurte, V'yamlich Malchute, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chayeh Dechol Beit Yisrael, V'agalav, V'zman Kari, V'yimru. Amen. Yeh Shmei Rabbah V'brach, Le'olam, Omei, Omaya. Yiparach, V'yishtabach, V'yipa'ar, V'yitrumam, V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, V'yitaleh, V'yitalal, Shemei Kudashah.
B'richu.
Le'elam, Yinchol Berchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, Da'am Yiram Be'alma V'yimru.
Amen.
Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, Echaim Alinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'yimru. Amen. Osei Shalom B'morma, Uyasei Shalom, Alinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'yimru. Amen. May the source of peace, send peace to all who are mourning. Comfort the bereaved among us. Again, we say, Amen.
Amen.
Cantor, do we have a concluding song?
Osei Shalom.
Osei Shalom. We will conclude with those same words that we just concluded the mourner's Kaddish with. Again, thank you for joining us on what is typically a pretty empty room. I'm glad for the Friday before Rosh Hashanah. So I'm glad that tonight it was not empty, because I know it's going to be packed in a couple of days. If you are new here, please introduce yourself to me, or I know we have a couple of students here. If you have any questions, I'm happy to stick around for a little bit and answer whatever questions you might have. Thanks for joining us.
Osei Shalom B'morma, Uyasei Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. Yasei Shalom, Yasei Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yasei Shalom, Yasei Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yasei Shalom, Yasei Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yasei Shalom, Yasei Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yasei Shalom, Yasei Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael.
We'll rise for Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddashanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho b'yavahu v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lemasei v'reishit ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh Zecher yetziat Mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta v'atanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodecha ve'ava uvratzon v'nachaltanu Baruch atah Adonai b'kadesh HaShabbat. Amen. Chaim.
And we'll say a blessing over our challah as well.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz v'te'avon.
Evon, Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for joining us.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for joining us.